I've been right about everything, and I have been for a long time. That's how I got to be president 3 times. That's how I won 3 elections. I did very well in the second one, won it. It was a rigged election.
Welcome back to the channel. Tonight, we are diving straight into a developing political story that is sending shockwaves through Washington and raising serious questions about the integrity of our democratic institutions. In a stunning report featured on CNN's The Lead with Jake Tapper, we look at the fallout surrounding Donald Trump's controversial decision to fire several key bipartisan election security officials. Critics and political analysts are sounding the alarm, warning that this sudden shakeup is the latest move fueling intense concerns over potential election interference. What does this mean for the upcoming security of our voting systems? And what are the motivations behind removing these trusted, bipartisan figures at such a critical juncture? We're about to look at the full breakdown, the reactions from Capitol Hill, and the deeper implications of this executive move. Let's see the video.
The man who brought you January 6th, a new pattern of aggressive moves, raising alarm and questions about what he's going to do this October. President Donald Trump last night fired the leadership of the Election Assistance Commission. That's the federal agency that provides funding and security guidance to election officials, and it certifies voting equipment. It's one of the few remaining entities of its kind because the Trump administration has already gutted the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. CNN requested comment from the White House and the EAC. Democratic Senator Mark Warner, who is the vice chairman of the Intelligence Committee, reacted in a statement to the firing, saying, quote, "Removing every remaining commissioner just months before the 2026 midterm elections is an extraordinary step that raises profound concerns about political interference in the institutions that support our elections. This is just one piece of a larger puzzle, Trump's election-obsessed words and actions. First of all, you still typically can't go a week without Trump saying falsely that he won the 2020 election. He did not. Here he was just 2 days ago.
I've been right about everything, and I have been for a long time. That's how I got to be president 3 times. That's how I won 3 elections. I did very well in the second one, won it. It was a rigged election.
He did not do very well in the second one, won it. He lost it. He did very poorly. It was not a rigged election. He continues to lie about this. And remember how people drunk on those false election conspiracies behaved. A violent attack on the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021 that resulted in 5 people dead, 1 police officer who died immediately afterward, 4 other police officers who took their own lives after experiencing that trauma, and more than 140 law enforcement wounded or maimed. The president was looking to have the will of the American people obstructed and subverted. He wanted to stop the counting of electors. He wanted to have fake electors make him president. It's a plot that failed, but not for lack of trying. And now here we are more than 5 years later, and there are questions as to what he is planning for 2026 or 2028. The FBI last week ramped up its investigation into the 2020 election in Georgia by dedicating more personnel, an internal memo calling it a priority, according to a source. The seizure, let us not forget, of Georgia's Fulton County ballots and election materials. Now, that was driven by a man named Kurt Olson. Kurt Olson was a presidentially appointed director of election security and integrity. Integrity being a rather loose term, given that Kurt Olson is a 2020 election denier who was actually fined by a court for his 2022 lawsuit that falsely claimed Arizona voting machines were unreliable and subject to manipulation. Now, interestingly, last month, Olson went from the White House to the Justice Department. He's a senior attorney for the Southern District of Florida. Now for more pieces of the puzzle. In February, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, under Tulsi Gabbard at the time, said that they had obtained electronic voting machines in Puerto Rico back in 2025 to look for security vulnerabilities. Now Gabbard is out as spy chief, replaced by Bill Pulte, who's interim director of national intelligence. Pulte has no relevant experience in intelligence or national security, but lots of experience in being a Trump loyalist and in weaponizing the government. The president has said Pulte will investigate elections, and Pulte's now chosen chief of staff is a woman who worked on election-related issues for the Republican National Committee. Then there's Trump's plan for the U.S. Postmaster General to not deliver mail-in ballots in states that don't turn over their voter rolls. If courts don't ultimately kill this, it would put more voter data in the hands of Trump officials looking for supposed election fraud. Also, in the new book Regime Change by Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan, they write, the authors, that as tensions between the U.S. and Venezuela heated up last year, President Trump taught MAGA pundit Tucker Carlson, tried to use him as a go-between between himself and then Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. From the book, quote, as bait, Maduro had claimed to Carlson that he could furnish proof U.S. voting machines were tampered with in 2020, a transparently calculated appeal to Trump's unfounded stolen election grievances. And he had told Carlson he wanted warmer relations with Washington, unquote. Now, since then, of course, Maduro was captured by U.S. forces. He currently sits in a New York detention center. Given that he was already willing to make false claims about Venezuela rigging the 2020 election to ingratiate himself with Trump, what might Maduro be willing to say now to get out of jail, to avoid spending the rest of his life behind bars? What might the U.S.-backed replacement of Maduro, Delcy Rodriguez, what might she be willing to say or do? Put all of this together, many government officials are wondering, concerned, some terrified, about what exactly President Trump and all the president's men are planning. We're talking about a man who on the first day of his second term pardoned the January 6 rioters, many of whom had committed violence, including beating up cops in Trump's name. We're going to continue to monitor all of this.
We are breaking down a massive political controversy that strikes at the very heart of American democracy and the security of our voting infrastructure. Following Donald Trump's highly controversial decision to terminate several top bipartisan election security officials, Washington has been thrown into an intense debate over executive power, national security, and the future of free and fair elections. This detailed report, originally highlighted on CNN's The Lead with Jake Tapper, dives into the immediate fallout of these firings and examines why critics on both sides of the aisle are sounding the alarm over what they describe as a deeply troubling pattern of behavior. To fully understand the gravity of this situation, we have to look at who these officials actually are. These weren't partisan political appointees designed to rubber stamp the agenda of one specific party. These were deeply experienced, highly vetted, bipartisan technical experts whose sole job was to protect the American voting system from foreign cyber attacks, domestic manipulation, and systemic vulnerabilities. By removing the individuals who serve as the defensive line for our election infrastructure, the administration has opened up a massive vacuum of leadership at a time when global threats from adversarial nations are at an all-time high. The backlash to this decision has been swift, fierce, and remarkably bipartisan. National security experts, intelligence veterans, and lawmakers from both major parties are openly questioning the timing and motivation behind these abrupt terminations. Critics are arguing that replacing independent, seasoned security professionals with political loyalists heavily compromises the neutrality of our election oversight. The overriding fear vibrating through Capitol Hill right now is that this move is directly fueling concerns of potential election interference, creating an environment where the mechanics of counting and certifying votes could become weaponized or cast into doubt ahead of future cycles. On the other side of the aisle, defenders of the administration argue that the president has full constitutional authority over executive branch personnel, and that restructuring these agencies is a necessary step to ensure administrative alignment and accountability. They dismiss the interference concerns as partisan hysteria, claiming that the system remains entirely secure. However, independent watchdogs counter that by dismantling trusted bipartisan guardrails, the administration is severely damaging public trust in the electoral process itself, a trust that is already incredibly fragile. Ultimately, this story isn't just about personnel changes in Washington. It's about the institutional guardrails that protect the vote of every single American citizen. When election security becomes heavily politicized, it jeopardizes the stability of the entire democratic framework. As congressional committees get ready to launch inquiries into these firings, the spotlight will remain fixed on how these agencies function moving forward and whether public confidence can be restored before the next major ballot is cast. We are going to keep tracking this story closely as more inside details emerge from the whistleblower reports and Capitol Hill hearings. What are your thoughts on these sudden firings? Do you see this as a standard administrative restructuring, or are you concerned about the long-term impact on election security? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss another breaking political analysis. We will see you on the next update.